Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today I'm going to take a look at a topic that has apparently significant importance when we're talking about going to school, and that is about finding your community and keeping it light. So I want to first acknowledge that the second nudge that I received that this was the next topic that I needed to address was a result of my TikTok For You page bringing up a creator, Biochem Batty, who was talking about how she was feeling as the only Black woman who has been accepted or admitted to her specific PhD program. And so she was sharing a very transparent moment of what that actually felt like and how she noticed that she wasn't able to navigate the social conversations with her classmates in the same manner that others were. And so based on her video, I could imagine how lonely she was feeling at the time. And so I wanted to share an encouraging comment to her. I was not the only Black female in my PhD program, but I know what it's like to feel lonely. I moved to a whole nother state to go to school, and the community that I built in Maryland, it didn't come with me when I moved to Georgia. So I had to find community for myself. And so the advice that I gave to her as a comment on her video was find your community outside of school. For example, church, mentoring groups, Black graduate student organizations, and learn to talk to others about the weather, traffic, graduation countdown. Keep it light. And so I wanted to expand upon that comment a little more by actually sharing my own experiences. And I don't know about you, but in middle school was mean. It was just mean. I went to public school, and middle school was not the best place in terms of just coming to school and having a good time like it was in elementary school. But one of the things that helped me was that I was involved in choir at middle school. And so I had my friends that I would see before, during, and after service. During choir rehearsals, I would be able to sit next to them. And so because I had that community outside of school, that helped when school was mean. I don't know how else to explain middle school. If you had a separate experience, please share in the comments. But middle school was rough. So high school, I actually ate lunch with a couple of friends, 1 to 2, in the library because I didn't want to sit in the cafeteria with all those people. And so that was my way of getting away, if you will, and not feeling pressure of having to be around so many people that I did not necessarily want to talk to during lunch. In 10th grade, I played basketball for a season. I learned that people were more serious about it than I was. They were looking to get scholarships. I was just looking to have fun. And so I said, well, I started it. I'm going to finish it. And so I did. I played JV during 10th grade. And so we had away games and had to ride the bus and come home on the activity bus and stuff like that. So that was another way for me to make acquaintances, colleagues, associates, if you will. I did not exactly have a best friend on the basketball team, but when your JV team has 6 people at a time and you're borrowing one person from the varsity team so that you can actually play the game, you get real close in terms of working towards a common goal or a purpose. So sometimes the community you build is out of necessity, and that's okay too. And it's okay for you to focus on that necessity for the time that you're together so that you have some camaraderie, even if it's not long term. Now, in 10th through 12th grade, I was in the UHS program, so the University High School program, and myself and a few of my classmates who were my friends, we would eat lunch in the UHS office so that we could not only get away from that huge cafeteria, but also do our homework. Hello, because I was all about doing homework at school and not at home, even if it meant doing it on the bus. But I wanted to be free when I got out of school to do whatever I wanted to do. In undergraduate school, I did attend a predominantly white institution, and it was also a women's college while I attended, meaning only women could be residents of the campus in terms of the residence halls. And men were allowed to commute, but they weren't allowed to stay on campus. And so during that time, I actually joined the gospel ensemble, and I held different positions in the gospel ensemble, from secretary to director to vice president, and then eventually president. I also helped lead a break-off group. So the praise team, when we had our gospel jubilee, we would sing additional selections. And so as a result, once again, camaraderie, working towards a common goal. And it's okay to meet with people at that point. Sometimes when you're in groups, you're not always going to be friends with people, but you can be friendly. And that's okay too, because it allows you to be in relationship with people at a level that's comfortable to you, meaning you don't have to go along with everything. And that's the same for friends too, but I'll leave that up for you to discuss amongst yourselves. So while we had the gospel ensemble in common, we were in each other's classes, I didn't necessarily hang out with everybody on the gospel ensemble if we weren't traveling for the different events that we were doing together. I did love them because of the way we were able to work together as a student group. We had an advisor because we had to have a staff or a faculty member on record saying, I know that this group exists and I know that they're meeting and I'm aware of them meeting, and so someone to have eyeballs on our group. But we were student-led, meaning that our director was a student, those on the board were students, and our pianist, she was a student. And when we did pay for people to play for us, they were around our age, so they were either undergraduate or graduate school age students. And so that kind of camaraderie was also very valuable, and I cherish the people who I worked with who were a part of that gospel ensemble because of their dedication and commitment to see a student group through that did not have to exist. If there weren't students interested, it would have died off. But there was a consistent group of people who participated in that group. And as a result, we were able to benefit from that community. And some people were closer than others and continued their relationships outside of the gospel ensemble as close friends. Some were acquaintances and associates, but at the same time, I must say, had a good time doing it. So perhaps there's a singing group that you can become a part of, or perhaps intramurals that you might want to participate in undergraduate school. If you're not there for athletic scholarship, intramurals is another way to engage and find community outside of the class and connect with people. I also participated in the Black Student Union, and one of my friends who was also someone who lived in my dorm, she would volunteer at a soup kitchen, and I would actually go with her to volunteer at the soup kitchen as well. I previously volunteered at a daycare when I was in middle school, so that was another way that I was able to build community outside of the classroom by volunteering. And so when someone invited me to go with them to volunteer at the soup kitchen, I said, sure. It is always good, I feel, to volunteer specifically in areas that you don't do for money. Follow me here. So during undergraduate school, I did IT work, but I didn't volunteer as an IT person. I volunteered as a server at a soup kitchen. When I was in my master's program at Georgia State, I volunteered in a food pantry. And so although I was in public policy and I could give them recommendations on different things that they could do, and I had the capacity to do spreadsheets and organize things and do a whole bunch of other stuff, I didn't do that when I volunteered. I volunteered by serving in a capacity that I would not regularly get paid for. And by doing so, that allowed me to take a break from what I did for work. It allowed me to take a break from what I did for school and serve people in a way that was a benefit to them and only cost me my time. And that was a good way for me to build community because I came to know the fellow volunteers as well as their families. And so that was a good way for me to help myself build community outside of the classroom and even in a smaller group, if you will, from the larger organization, the larger church group. While I was at Bowie State, I was at Bowie State, an HBCU, getting a master's in education, secondary education, curriculum specialist. And I had a good friend in that program as a result of engaging in the Prince George's County Alternative Teaching Program. And so she was there getting her master's as well. And so we took as many classes as we could together. And if there was a group assignment, we worked together in that group. We got along well, and we were able to encourage each other and cheer each other on. We didn't necessarily hang out, if you will, let's say after school or outside of school activities, but because she was friendly and I was friendly, we were friends at a level of classmates, but closer than just a regular classmate. Someone that I could definitely count on to show up, because we were both overachievers and wanted to make sure we got the grade and not just A grade. And so we knew we would have each other's back in class. So if you could find one classmate that is as passionate about their work as you are, that's another way to make friends and add to your community. So although they might not engage in everything else that you're involved in, when you build community for yourself, it's coming from different places. And they may not all show up at once, but because you have people that you can count on, that you can turn to, that you can send a text message to, that you can send an email to, that you can send a paper to and say, hey, do you mind reviewing this for me? And you know that they're not going to copy off your work. So let's say it's someone who's already graduated or someone who's in a different discipline, and maybe they are not well versed in your discipline or area, but they're able to read it enough to let you know if there are holes in your argument, or if your logic is a little off, or if your organization needs to be refined, or if they're able to give you feedback on whether your ideas and your content is clear, then that also can be helpful. And so I also wanted to point out that in my PhD program, I was able to find community as well. And that was a result of being a part of a research group. And so this research group was informal. I won't even tell you the name because it was undercover and you could only get let in by invitation. And it was as a result of being observed as far as your dedication, commitment, and quality of work when you were performing in class, whether it was writing papers or presenting or expressing your research interest. And so I'll just call it the Underground Graduate Railroad. And so in that group, it was led by Black faculty who were also women, and the majority of those who were a part of this research group were also Black women. There were also those who identified as queer, and there were at times men and women who were not Black. So it was open, but we knew that we were there to support each other in terms of research. Because when you are at that PhD level, you need to take advantage of all the opportunities that you have in order to do the work of research. So take a look at what conferences are out there for your discipline. Take a look at the conferences out there that cross your discipline, so intersect with your discipline. How else can you participate in other organizations in terms of not just attending the conference or just presenting at the conference, but how can you become a reviewer? Find that out. What are the special interest groups, so the SIGs that are a part of that professional community? Get involved in those special interest groups. Yes, you can attend the meetings, but I tell you what, you'll probably get more out of it if you actually hold a leadership position in it, so that you're building camaraderie amongst the other leaders, as well as being able to help direct people to your special interest group, so that someone else who might be trying to find their way can find their way to your special interest group. As a result of being involved in the Comparative and International Education Society's special interest group on Indigenous knowledge and the Academy, I was able to work with my off-campus committee member and talk to him and get feedback on my progress as it related to not just my coursework, but how I was approaching my research in terms of the different conferences that I was submitting to, in addition to CIES, AERA, AECT, and those other acronyms, I was able to talk to him about what I was thinking as it related to my comprehensive exams and my dissertation proposal, as well as my dissertation. And I was able to talk to him more as a result of attending those conferences and pulling him aside for 10, 15 minutes because he was there and I could get a hold of him. Whereas when he was back on campus, he constantly had students in his office. He was always working on a paper to submit. Always. He was always working on something. And so he was very busy when he was back on campus, but I could get a hold of him when it came to these conferences. And so that time allowed me to speak with him. It also allowed me to speak with other experts and get 10 or 15 minutes of their time that would take me further in my work and the encouragement I needed to keep going. Because when you're doing a PhD, you are turning down a lot in terms of time that you can spend on other things in life. And so it's not a small thing to get a PhD, and you have to be able to keep up your momentum. So find your community, build it outside of class. It might involve your classmates. It might involve your faculty. It might involve volunteering somewhere. It might involve being affiliated with a church or another religious organization so that you have people who are saying, you can do it. You got this. There's bigger purpose in your life that's even greater than what you're working on right now. And you can do it. And when you get through it, you will be free to do those things that caused you to pursue a PhD in the first place. And so my ultimate cheat goal in life, I have to confess and say, was being a part of a religious organization throughout my schooling. And so because I not only sang in the choir for 25 years, I also spent time doing different things and working in different groups, and the level of engagement changed over time. But I knew there were people who were cheering me on. I knew there were people that I would say Happy New Year to just one time a year and let them know that I was thinking of them, who loved me and were in full support of everything that I was pursuing. And so I could sit back and reflect and just soak in who my community members are in terms of knowing that they love me, knowing that they want to see me prosper and be prosperous. They want to see me through the end in terms of being successful with the different things that I pursued. And that made all the difference. Now, circling back to a common interest and working with others towards a goal, I was a part of the JEJ Adult Choir. It was 2011, and we pursued competing in the Verizon Wireless How Sweet the Sound concert. And we won the DC regional contest. So in 2011, this is how long ago it was, and the names of stadiums change all the time. We sang at the Verizon Center in Washington, DC, and it was amazing. And we went on to the national competition, which was in Los Angeles, and we sang at the Staples Center. And let me tell you, the level of camaraderie we built as a result of practicing, and I was in my master's program at this time, practicing twice a week on choreography and singing one song for less than 4 minutes. I think it had to be like, I don't know, it was less than 5 minutes. It might have been 4 minutes, 20 seconds, and then the second go around had to be shorter than that. But it was less than 5 minutes. And I've never worked so hard on one song for so long and choreography. That level of camaraderie just cemented the dedication. It just cemented the possibilities of what can be done when people work together. And so we already, as a group, would have fellowships outside of church, game nights, dinners, parties, whether they were showers for people who were having weddings or babies or things of that nature. And so we would have our large group outings as well as breaking off into smaller groups amongst those who were close friends outside of the choir. And so that was amazing. And so because I was a part of one of the baddest bands in terms of choirs, we on record, You can't take the title from us. We won the title. All I had to do was think back on those times and just be like, oh, that was great. You know what? If I can do that, I can do the next thing. I can keep going. Those same people who we were leaning on and depending on to get through that concert, they still love me, even though they're far away. And so before I go, I do want to share two more things. The first thing is that I want to share a message that I sent to someone who's a part of the Black-Liberation.Tech LinkedIn group. She had a question as it related to how to get into a new area. And so I gave her a two-part response. I'll put it like this. And this was the second part of that response. It's also important to develop your own network of communities. One person or group might not be able to meet all of your technical, social, and emotional needs. So look around and see where you fit. Look for a nice balance of give and take, which might not be a 50-50 split. As a student, you may need to receive more than you give to start. So 80-20, meaning one person is giving in 80% of the relationship while you're giving 20, or even 90-10. So the other person giving 90 and you giving 10. One thing people can appreciate is you being interested in them as a person. Learn about the people you engage with and try to remember one thing about them that you can circle back to in conversation. So like a pet, a child, a parent, a partner, hair, hobby, sports, etc. And so with that, I shared with her a lesson from Black-Liberation.Tech. And so that lesson is C2.2, finding your community and asking questions. And so I'm just going to take a moment to hop over to Black-Liberation.Tech to share that with you all. So this is the Black-Liberation.Tech homepage. Once again, it is in English and Spanish. So you're going to go to lessons, and from lessons, I'm in the career section, and you're going to scroll down to C2.2, finding your community and asking questions. All right, so here we go. Level 2 prompt. Reflect and write. Reflect on the following prompts and write out your responses. You will use them later on in the lesson. Pursue tech careers and uncover hidden possibilities prompts. So, finding your community and asking questions. So these questions are to get you to think about communities you have engaged in, what you liked about them, and essentially help you to develop a prompt to put into an AI system or even Google to help you do a search for a community that might fit you. So networking. Describe any communities you are currently a part of, professional, personal, or online, where people share similar interests. How could you leverage these communities to learn about tech? Enter any ideas for reaching out and asking questions. Connection. If you were to organize a meetup or join one of the people transitioning into tech, what kind of support or resources would you hope to find? Enter the specific areas where you feel you need the most guidance or support. Mentorship. Who would you ideally want as a mentor in the tech industry and why? Enter the qualities you value in a mentor and the kinds of questions you would ask them to help you grow. Outreach. List a few platforms, X, LinkedIn, Reddit, Discord, where you could start engaging with tech communities. How could you use these to ask questions and share your learning journey? Enter a plan for your first steps in reaching out. Now, if you're not in tech, that's okay. Just substitute tech for your discipline, your field, or profession. Non-tech related prompt. Try to think about places that are not related to your discipline, field, or profession when you want to find your community. Finding your community and asking questions. Support network. Think about a time when you leaned on friends, family, or a non-professional community for support. How did they help you grow or feel less alone. Enter details about how you could apply the same approach to building tech-related connections. Community engagement. Outside of tech, are there clubs, organizations, or volunteer groups you enjoy being a part of? Enter how the experiences and relationships in these communities have shaped your ability to work with and learn from others. Non-tech role models. Who is someone you admire in a non-tech field? What qualities do they have that inspire you? And how could you emulate those qualities when seeking out or building a tech community? Enter your reflections. Comfort zone. Write about a time where you stepped out of your comfort zone to connect with new people. How did that experience help you grow personally? And how might it inspire you to engage more with tech communities? Enter what you learned from that experience. Lesson 2. So this is the second lesson in a series of 4. Finding your community and asking questions. Objective: help individuals realize the importance of community and find ways to engage with tech professionals for support and guidance. Instructions. Step 1. Reflect and respond. Using the prompts under Finding Your Community and Asking Questions. So you can go back up to those prompts that you answered previously in order to answer these questions a little faster. So the idea is to get you thinking and then be able to bring it in a more succinct fashion, or even add to what you already have. Think about any non-tech communities you are part of and how they provide support. Describe the qualities you admire in a mentor and consider how a supportive community could help you in tech. Write about a time you stepped out of your comfort zone to meet new people and what you learned from that experience. Here's the ChatGPT prompt for you to think about. Use your reflections to generate prompts for ChatGPT. So all of those things that you made note of, you're going to reuse them here. So what online communities should I join to learn about software engineering? So in this case, fill in your field, fill in your profession, fill in your discipline. How can I find a mentor who understands my transition from, so if you're going from one discipline to another, fill those in. So in this case, it says, how can I find a mentor who understands my transition from marketing to tech? All right, step 3, find and engage with tech communities. Use platforms like LinkedIn, X, and Meetup to find tech communities. Search for groups like Women in Tech or Latinas in Tech. If you are of a specific ethnic group, feel free to put in that ethnic group and your discipline to see what groups already exist and how you can become involved in them. Write down 3 tech communities or organizations and any upcoming events you could attend, virtually or in person. This I will say, if you're in a PhD or a master's program, reach out to your departments and find out if there are travel funds for students in order to attend or participate, present, if you will, at conferences, so that you are not only getting funding to help support your attendance, but to help promote your scholarship. So make sure that you're getting involved with professional communities, even if you're in undergraduate school. Let me clarify. If you are Black, if you are a member of an underrepresented group, apply to present at conferences. Find out who you can work with in order to submit to conferences as well as to journals. You can work with students at other schools. I actually did a presentation with CIES with 2 other PhD students from different schools in different states. And we were able to work together to get an abstract together based on the common research interests we had. And we submitted for a roundtable discussion. And we were accepted to do our roundtable discussion at one of the CIES conferences. And that group came about because my off-campus advisor said, hey, you know what? You have similar research interests as this young lady who is one of my mentees. So she did not even attend his school. She's someone who met him at a conference and latched on and said, hey, I need a mentor. And that's something that you have to do sometimes. You got to find people, latch on, and show that you're committed by being consistent in communicating with them, not bugging them, but let's say once a month, once a quarter, reach out and say, hey, is it all right if we could touch base? So because he was able to connect us, she was able to bring in a third person that she met at another conference who also had a similar research interest as it related to indigenous knowledge. And we were able to do a roundtable discussion. So I just wanted to share that tidbit. So write down 3 tech communities or organizations and any upcoming events you could attend virtually or in person. Connect with women in these communities and ask questions about their experiences, transitioning to tech or growing within their field. So once again, if tech is not your focus, fill in your focus, whatever that may be, your discipline, your field, your research interest, or your profession. I'm going to stop sharing this. So in conclusion, I want to encourage you to find your community and use light conversation to ease social anxiety. So when you are talking with your classmates and it's a social setting, keep it light. Find out something about them that you all have in common, or find out something about them that you might not have in common and ask them questions about it. For example, if people are there and they're from different places, you might want to talk to them about their hometown, what they think of their hometown versus the current city in which or town in which they live. How does the weather compare? What are the seasons like? Do they have any pets? Do they have any hobbies? One of my hobbies is art. So I'm able to talk to people about art. I'm able to talk to people about music and singing and being a part of a group that was in a contest. I tell people I've sung at the Verizon Center, the Staples Center, and the Kennedy Center. And that was all a result of being a part of that one choir. And so, like I said, I was grateful for that experience. So it's okay to find community outside of class that might not necessarily even relate to class. Another community that I held dear was my Sunday school community. I was in Sunday school for many years, and so I was able to connect specifically with a few people in my Sunday school class and keep in touch with them outside of church to check on them, say, hey, how are you doing? Especially when we went through the pandemic. And so those people hold a special place in my heart. And like I said, because I build my community as I go, I know that I'm taking them with me wherever I go. They are cheering me on. They are in support of my pursuits for success, whenever I get a promotion, anything of that nature. And I go back and I share it with them. And I do tell them Happy New Year. So I have a long list of people that I say Happy New Year to that I might not even talk to all year long, but I take that time to reflect and remember my community because they helped me get through however long that time period was that we were together in person or together, if it was a virtual space. I just let them know that, hey, I'm thinking about them and I appreciate them. Because when people love on you like that, it doesn't go away. It sticks with you and you're able to move in spaces that might not be as community focused as you would like them to be because you have your own community that's supporting you behind the scenes. And so another way of building community is being there for someone else. I'm not saying you have to do the 90-10 split, but perhaps there's someone who might not have a similar background as you, but they're going through a similar challenge of feeling alone. Perhaps they're your research partner. Perhaps they're your lab partner. Perhaps there's someone that you can collaborate with in order to pursue submitting a research paper, a conference proposal, something that would help you both out along your way. So think about the different ways that you can engage with people. And remember, when things are socially awkward or you're not feeling it or you're feeling alone, it's okay to keep it light. You don't have to get deep on everything, and save that other part of you for those who are a part of your community. And you'll have to find them, seek them out, build it, be consistent, reach out to them, touch base with them, whether it's a text message, a group message, or an email. Just shoot somebody an email once a semester, say, hey, this is where I am in my program. I have this many classes left. how are you doing, so forth and so on. How are things coming along with X, Y, and Z, whatever you learned about them, so that you are touching base with people and interacting with people and checking in with people to let them know how you're doing, as well as ask about how they are doing, and so that you can cheer each other on as you move along your way. I do want to take a moment to invite you all to share your experiences and your solutions. Drop them down in the comments. How did you handle the challenges of social navigation? So you are in a space where your classmates seem to be networking and moving and grooving. What are some ways to help others navigate those spaces who might be feeling like they're alone or that they're just not connecting with people? The more you share, the more you can help somebody else in this virtual community. So once again, I want to thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review the podcast, and join our LinkedIn group. That's where you can ask me even more questions by sending me a message, and it's not just 180 characters, so that I can be a part of your community and respond to you. And just look for Black-Liberation.Tech. You can reach out to me directly. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.